It's a good morning to you. Welcome to Asake Online. My name is Zenzele Ndebele, and this is the Breakfast Club. Today in the show, as usual, we talk, look at history, we look at current affairs and everything else that happens around us. But today, we'll be talking about the liberation struggle and young people. And to discuss or to talk to is Lungisani Ndlovu. He's an ex-ZIPRA. So I'll ask him whether he still considers himself a veteran. But Lungisani, one interesting thing about him, joined the liberation struggle at a very early age of 14 years. That was quite young, but we want to know from him why at that particular age, and compare the 14-year-old over 1977, the 14-year-old over 2021. Babisi ngabo TikTok, ngabo Instagram. Kodwa abanye ngo 1977 base bese they were already worried about the politics of the country. So we'll be talking to Lungisani Ndlovu. He's also an author, and he has written a book etwa Kijana the Liberator. So we'll be talking about his role in the liberation struggle, but also his writing and probably reflections. Babu Ndlovu, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
Yes. The interest, that's quite fascinating that you joined the war or the liberation struggle at an early age of 14. Yes. What was it?
Yeah, actually, I wouldn't say I joined, because I was not alone when I went to the struggle. I was with my friends, and there were many more other friends around us who had also decided to join the struggle. See, at that time, we were having a lot of problems. Actually, when we looked around the type of learning that we're experiencing at that time, it wasn't even the learning that you can talk about. Even, you could not even say that we were going to school, because each and every time when we were at school, we used to be visited by soldiers by that time, and the soldiers will come and teach us their own syllabuses. And most of the time, they used to come to school maybe pretending that they've caught someone who is a guerrilla, and they will demonstrate certain, skills of how they attack people in the forest using someone that they've just picked at his home. They would just paint that person as a guerrilla just to come and teach us. So, babethatha anyone ukuthi bamsebenzise nje as a guerrilla, and that thing affected us quite a lot. We were very young to see such kind of beatings in front of us, and therefore we decided that we should also leave the country and go away. And there was also a radio station in Zambia which was run by Zenzele Ndebele. That radio station, we used to listen to that radio station every time around 7 o'clock, Radio Russia. And our parents never wanted us to come closer to that station, because they knew that the moment you heard anything from that radio, it motivated you to also to leave your home and go to the struggle. The language that was spoken, even the motivation that was said in that radio, it made many people, especially in the rural areas, to decide to go to the struggle.
Before we even go very further and ask about how we went there and all those kind of things, but I want to maybe pose this question right now.
Yes.
At 14, you're already thinking of going to war.
Yes.
You have kids. You have kids of your own.
Yes,
you're 14-year-old.
Yes,
what are they thinking about right now? Do you think if you're 14-year-old, do they have any political consciousness?
Yeah, I always think, if it's even in my book there, that the people who went to the struggle did not do so by choice. That was a calling, a spiritual calling. It wasn't something that just came from, yes, there could have been some individuals who just decided to, maybe tomorrow I have to go to the struggle. But people who went there because because of a spiritual calling that was there. So a spiritual calling that did not even cater for ages. It never catered for ages.
You mentioned the issue of Radio Russia. and probably what was happening. But do you think at that particular time the political consciousness, the propaganda yakona was quite strong and compelling?
From the
liberators or ZIPRA?
Yes, it was compelling. It was quite okay. It was quite vigorous. Yeah, it could shake anyone, because at that present moment during the 1976, you know, like actually the people who went into the strike the first time, those engineers, the engineers of the strike, like Ocheise Tonkomo or Babu Joshua Ngomo, those people were were strong characters. They were not just people in the struggle. They were chosen to lead the struggle. And when they were there, the words that they spoke, even the language that they used, was so much touching to those that were at home. They were very much gifted, because, you know, you know, and you are talking to someone who is at home, and you are there already in the struggle. And Tina Esesekaya, sasikubona exactly what they were talking about. Because during that time, we are not talking about what is happening, maybe even today. You could not move kwamanye streets lapha town. There were streets that streets were pavements which were meant for blacks, and the other pavements, the other side for blacks. And there was a way of greeting a white man. And even at home, when there's Abafana Selusinko tonight at the age of 13, 14, we used to meet those soldiers in the forest. And they will call us, and we will talk to them. And they will harass us even. So we decided, I know it was too much. And then we went away.
So take me to the day you decided Labangan Bahu to know we're now crossing to Zambia, to Botswana to join the struggle. What happened? Whose idea was it?
It was my idea, actually. My best friend was called Obetingwa Mkone. I think you know him, the Deputy Minister of Home Affairs. He was my best friend. We went to grade 1 together up to grade 6, because when we left, we were doing grade 6. It was a grade 6 class. Actually, we had a teacher who was very, a violent teacher in the class. He used to beat us, and sometimes we, kwasungathi nje i-treatment yama-social line sasiyithola phandle eklasini, kwasophosa ungathi kuyafana nakithi singabantwana besikolo. So sahlala phansi sadecide ukuthi obhuti bethu vele basebehambile, our brothers had gone before us, and even our parents, amanye abadala bakithi ku-area yakithi khona ngale sasesikwazi ukuthi sibahamba. But we didn't even know where Zambia was by then, and we didn't even know the type of soldiers that could be found in Botswana, and we could not even identify a guerrilla from a Rhodesian soldier, the Rhodesians, because each and every man carrying a gun to us maybe at that time was a guerrilla. So let us go and learn a lot about this thing called war, so that we can come back home and fight.
So where do you go?
From school laphana saqonda endaweni okuthiwa kusesabeni, because the nearest country from our village was Botswana. So we went through Esabeni, we crossed Uramakwebana, and then Uramakwebana is about 5 kilometers to the border. Then from there we crossed the border. But actually before we crossed the border, safika sadlula lapha akwakula masocha khona vele ukhanya ukuthi they had slept there overnight. Ngoba kwakuleke kule kungama-fire lokuzen places kwabo lapha kukhanya ukuthi they were seated around the fire at night. So from then we went to the border, border. Then we jumped the border into Botswana. And when we were there, we were so relaxed, because we knew that we are now safe, and we are now under the Botswanian government. Then from there, we were led by Abadala Bekhaya. They directed us to the road that led to Zenzele. And then from that, when we got into that road, we followed that road, not knowing which direction we were going to. And at around about 6 o'clock towards evening, we were picked by the Botswanian army truck, which took us to a prison where we were detained for one night, being investigated whether we were genuinely going to the struggle or we were maybe crossing to South Africa. That is how we left.
So, how long do you stay in Botswana before you go to Zambia?
When we were in Botswana, we were then taken to our really camp, the camp, our ZIPRA camp. By then, ZIPRA camp in 1976, we were staying at a school in one of the townships, Francis Town. Wagule school nje like ngabe kubulawayo la St. Bernard's bonamana. We given a camp, it was like that. So on the other side, kwakula buildings two blocks. The wakuhlalizana khona phana ababesiya kujoin izano. Then thina bezapho sasi-occupy about 7 classrooms on the other side. So
at that stage, you already knew that wafuna ukujoin ZIPRA?
At that stage, yes.
How did you differentiate the two?
The two?
Yeah.
Yeah, ZIPRA yayikhuluma kakhulu kuma radio ekhaya. We knew a lot about ZIPRA even before going to the struggle. We knew a lot about Joshua Mqabu Nkomo even going to the struggle. Actually, we didn't have much knowledge about Robert Mugabe in Plumtree there. We didn't have much knowledge about ZANU. But most of our brothers who were living on Plumtree besiya struggle, they were telling us that they were going to join ZIPRA. They were going to become ZIPRA forces. And even we were able to sing some of the songs about ZIPRA even before we could know ZIPRA. Singathi in short vele singathi ZIPRA ngokwayo i-struggle ingathi nxa sikhuluma nge-struggle, i-struggle vele sasivele sesikhona ekhaya. Sase sikwazi a lot about impi. That is why even at home today, we've got other Kichanas who never even crossed the border, who are now called collaborators. They were part of the struggle. The struggle was fought even by before going to the struggle, people were already at war, you see. But after crossing the border, that's when we considered ourselves as terrorists. But even before crossing the border, we were called collaborators because we could meet the guerrillas, we could tell them even what amasotsha ngaphi. And sometimes singabafana abancane ithi sasithwala ukudla sisiyabanika before going to the struggle nxa bekhona emagangeni. So we were already involved at war with our parents. Like IZAP never depended on guerrillas alone. IZAP was EPF ZAP was a party that involved everybody. There were those who went to the struggle to fight, but those that remained at home were also fighting, you see. So the struggle was not only from Zambia to Zimbabwe or from Zimbabwe to Zambia. It was at home and in Zambia there, you see. So
uyahlala eBotswana lapha, then you go to Zambia. Where lifikela ngapha eZambia?
eBotswana laphana sathathwa iBeyong 707 yayi-British ibhalwe British what Columbia, I think by then. Asayikhumbula kuhle, but it was a big thing. Sasiqalisa sibulathi ukugada inteke for the first time siqala sibona abantu umntana omncane 14 years. I remember I weighed 46 kgs mina ngene entekeni lapha. They ended up laughing, sebesithi ngabe bafaka omunye eceleni kwami because of my weight. But samba sasuka lapha nasakwehlela eLusaka airport. We took about 2 hours, I think, ngoba sakade ama-7, but around 8 to 9 kwamba sasesifikile eLusaka airport. Yikho lapha esafikela khona eZambia. Safika sahlala laphana about an hour. Then we were taken by ama-guerrillas akithi, ama-guerrillas from our camp in Ampundwe camp. Then before leaving Lusaka airport, we were taken to Lusaka to be shown a part of IZAPU properties, like in the Iwagule, inkalakathe ejethi sibili ukhanya eyayithwelela abanye ayithwela abantu ababesiwenela leyana. Kula kulento yakhe yayicapture one of our guerrillas okuthiwa nguSidini. owacapture leyo ndege isiya ngaphi, isiya ewenela, ilabantu bewenela about 300 abantu ababesiyasebenza eSouth Africa. Then ubaba lo wasegula lapha ekhaya, uthe sesilela laphana uyabona nxa usewenela wawungena lokudla kwakho, wasethatha igrenade ayelichiyelwe ngabafuwa begula laphana, wakhipha istaff yesinkwa lezo, wafaka igrenade phakathi. He used that grenade to capture that ndege ilokhu zenijethi leyana. Yiyo safika sayitshengiswa leyo. Then plus lama helicopters, I think there were 2 or 3 helicopters esasiwatshengisiwe aye property yezapho. Then after that sasesithathwa ke i-CRAS, one of ZIPRA scars ungathi ngamagoneti lawo. It was from Russia, I think, i-CRAS yankhona. Yasesithatha ke sesiya eCamp okuthiwa yiNampundwe camp.
So wena uyahlala eNampundwe lapha liyatrainwa liyafunda lenzani?
eNampundwe it wasn't a school. It was a military camp, a transit camp. A transit camp ishuthi lapha nofikela khona abantu phela babe sebesiyavele ku military, and yayi camp vele eyama-guerrillas. Yes, afika lapha ke sihlala ukuhlala kwethu thina eNampundwe sasivele sesingabantu esivele sesingamasotsha. Sasesempini because impi vele sayiqalisa cross border. We became soldiers after crossing the border into Botswana. So when we were taken from Botswana to Zambia, we were no longer kids by that time. We were not recognized by the enemy as young boys. The enemy knew that the number of soldiers in Zambia was increasing. If it all the record about the number of people who were there. So the moment when we got to Nampundwe, we were not treated like children. We were treated like soldiers. We were, if it was worse even to a soldier on training, because our instructors at Nampundwe were very harsh people. They were not very easy men. They would wake us up at 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. every day.
Until we left about 2 a.m.
2 a.m. I'm sorry, 2 a.m. 2 a.m. Every day in the morning. It was not maybe on Monday to Friday and maybe weekends. There were no weekends there. And actually when we were there, we did not even know the date. It was it Monday or Tuesday or each day was treated the same. And we were forced to wake up at 3 a.m. every morning. And then we will go for training, light exercises. From there, then we'll do the toying. We'll run more than maybe 50 kilometers or to 60 kilometers every morning. And then come back to the camp, do some exercises, because our exercises were numbered. We had exercises from number 1 up to number 16, I think. I still remember number 6, press up, press up. Well, that was number 6. Then number 4, squat, like skipping, but without a rope, you see. So we'll do those exercises maybe up to 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Then that is when we had break time. Then from there we'll start preparing for lunch, because we started queuing for lunch at around 11 up to 8 o'clock in the evening. It will be lunchtime. From 11 up to 8 in the evening, it will be lunchtime, because of the number of people who were there in the camp.
So do you receive formal military training in these camps? In
those camps, yes, because the exercises that we're doing were also done by the guerrillas who were under training. The only thing that we did not carry there were only guns, live guns, but we were carrying wooden guns. The moment we got to the struggle, we were forced to carry wooden guns. No one was allowed to walk empty-handed without anything that you are carrying on your hand. Actually, the wooden gun, it was a requirement that each and every person should have a wooden gun. And that wooden gun was treated as a live gun. There was no difference between a wooden gun and a live gun. If you lose your wooden gun, you were treated in the same manner as a guerrilla who came to front to fight and lost an AK-47. You were treated in the same way.
So you joined 1977?
1976.
1976.
Yes, 1977 I was there in Zambia.
Yeah.
76 in
So 77, 78, 79. What are you doing there in Zambia?
1977 and 78. 1977 we left Nampunde after the death of JZ Moyo. That was the time when they established this JZ1 camp. JZ1 camp was established after the death of JZ Moyo. That's why it was nicknamed JZ1. That was a camp now that was prepared for young, you know, some people call us recruits, but according to myself, I think we're not recruits. We were called the reserves. We're reserves there. The only difference between us and the war veterans, our brothers, those who fought, was age. But the experience and the activities that were done there were equally the same. You know, we're divided into sections. There were people who were called the king killers. Those who had some defects, maybe body defects, who could not fight. But the Kichanas, all of them, most of the Kichanas, were able to do everything that the war veterans were doing. The only difference was that according to the United Nations, you know, the Security Council, whatever they called it at that time, young boys were not allowed to train and fight as guerrillas. It was against a certain policy with the United Nations. So that was the only difference. But we were trained so that when the enemy came to attack us in Zambia, you see, we were able to defend ourselves. If the enemy came to our camps, we used to fight with the enemy. We used to fight in the same manner as our brothers. Sometimes we were involved in bombardments, we were involved in shootings, ground shootings, but we could dodge the enemy, and in the same manner as what our brothers were doing, you see. The only difference was age there.
Yeah, so the school is established for young people or young recruits, as you put it. So you stay there until when?
Actually, the school was established because PF ZAP was not just a party. PF ZAP was like a government in exile. It had all the ministries functioning there in the forest. You know, if you can see, you remember or think about all the ministries that you know in our government at the present moment. PF ZAP had all those ministries functioning there in the forest. The Minister of Education was there, but it was not fully functioning. Some people take that as if we were at a school, the Kichanas were learning in Zambia. No, the school was established in 1978 in March. It was opened in March. The JZ1, that's why you see in Zimbabwe there is this JZ in Machota there. It is a baby, a school from the JZ which was established in Zambia. That school was established, and when Nkomo realized that this struggle is going to take a lot of time before independence. So these young boys who are here cannot go back to Zimbabwe and learn it. Let them just have a basic learning. Out of all the Kichanas that were there in the struggle, we had only one textbook, one math textbook, Chanon, which came with a guy from Manama. I think there was a boy from Manama who liked math very much. When Manama was taken by guerrillas, those boys were taken by guerrillas. So that guy hit that book called the Chanon. It became an essential book in Zambia. That was the only book that we used to refer to it. We had no duster, we had no blackboard, we had nothing, we had no tables. You see, we could write on the soil like the grade zeros, what grade zeros are doing now. Even grade sevens, form ones would write on the ground with fingers, and the teacher will come and mark using a stick where you had written on the ground. So that was not a school. It was just a basic learning. Our leaders wanted us to receive that basic learning so that when we come home, we will join with those that were here and be able to speak. Maybe like I am trying to speak now.
So you stay in those camps for 3 years?
For 4 years.
Yeah.
Yes, we stayed in those camps, yes, for 4 years. But we moved from JZ1, we went to JZ2, you know, because JZ1 was, we had received a message, our ZIPRA commanders, it received maybe a tip-off or through intelligence, like we had very great intelligent people like Vitabengwa, who was our army commander. He was a very intelligent man, you know, when it comes to intelligence. And even all those ZIPRA leaders, army leaders who were under Tabengwa, were also, we trusted them very much. So they advised us to leave the camp JZ1, and after 2 weeks that camp was attacked. So we went into a camp JZ2. And in JZ2 we did not stay quite long because that place was not good for human habitation. There was rainfall. It was raining each and every day from Monday to Sunday, January to December.
So I happy JZ2
JZ2, we walked a distance of maybe from here to Kweru maybe, or to Kwekwe. I think it was I cannot tell where it was located, but I remember that when we left Lusaka, we walked a distance that could be equivalent to a man walking today from here to Kwekwe or Kweru, around Kweru or Kwekwe. It was very far from the JZ1, but we used our feet to get to that place. And we did not stay quite long in JZ2. We also forced to move from JZ2 to JZ3, which is now in Solwezi. That is where I wrote my grade 7 there. There was a school, a Zambian school called Chanangombe there, and those who wanted to write their grade 7 or Form 2 JC had an opportunity to go and write their examinations at that school.
So you wrote your grade 7?
I wrote my grade 7 there in Zambia, yes, and I came up with 4 points. I passed 4 subjects with 4 points, but I don't remember where my certificate is at the present moment. I was also thinking that maybe the Zambian people will be very kind to retract those certificates and send them back to Zimbabwe. I don't know how that could be done, because I think they remained there in Zambia. We didn't bring them home.
So 1980, the ceasefire there, you guys, where do you go?
In 1980, when there was ceasefire, we're still there in Zambia. You know, when they were told that there is this ceasefire, we were very much happy. We were there in Zambia. We knew that the people in Zimbabwe here have done a lot of fighting, and we were fighting together with them. We were so much happy. Even our leader, Joshua Nkomo, you know, was visiting us occasionally during that time. And then at a certain time, he left forever. We never saw him until the time when we came back to Zimbabwe.
So lina liqonda ngaphi lisuke Zambia? Where do you lifika lapha?
When after independence we came back home.
So when do you come to Zimbabwe? Is it after
we came to Zimbabwe after voting, after elections? Yes, that's when we came back home. Some months after elections. When we came home, we knew that ZANU had won and ZIPRA had been defeated. You see.
So where did you go? Where did you go?
We came back home.
Yeah, when
we came back home here, I went we boarded a train from Kabwe. From Kabwe, it took us 4 days to get to Victoria Falls, I think. Then from there, we came down to Luveve High School. That is where we were stationed there for about 3 weeks. I didn't even know where my home was by that time. We didn't even know a lot about Bulawayo, so we stayed there until our relatives came to fetch us. But as for me, no one came to visit us. So until we were taken to Tombotema Secondary School, that is where we were kept there for a while. When we left Zambia, we told that we were going to be given a school, we were going to learn for free and so forth and so forth. But I don't know what happened later then. Because when we got to Tombotema, the president himself, Robert Mugabe, came to Plumtree and told us to go to our homes. And from that time, we never had anything to do with the struggle. We were left like that. The president himself came to Plumtree Tingomuzi Stadium and told us that Nkomo had told him that we should now go back to our relatives. And that was the last time we had any connection with the struggle. As for me, I just bought a Land Rover from one of the Mpandeni Mission fundis, and then I went home. I just got home like that.
So you take us to the day. You get there. Abatala, they don't expect you. We are tucha. Utweleni, ubuyalani.
My parents were not happy about my arrival from the struggle. They thought that we would come there with some as celebrities. You see, people who are celebrated that they are from the struggle. You know, I just came like a boy who had lost some cows for 4 years and was staying in the forest.
So tucha
nothing. Up to now, as I'm seated here, nothing.
So they were happy
that we are back. Yeah. But they were not happy about the condition that we looked like. You know,
I'm sure
we were thin. You know, even we were putting on combats, you know, military combats. You see, because in Zambia we never had a time where we would dress like we were going to church. There was no church, there was no, we had no prayers there. So we were always in combats. So when we got home, we were putting those tattered and torn combats.
So you are now about 18 years?
Now?
Yeah, I figure you're about 18, 19.
When we came back?
You came back.
I was 20 something, I think.
Yeah.
14, 15, 16, 17. Yeah, I was 18. Yeah,
so
18, 19.
You oversized.
Hey, oversized. Hey, oversized, yeah. And I was carrying nothing. Actually, some few things in my items. Ngale bhuku kuthiwa ngulona Duni. Ngandiphiwe ngomunye umgerelo wayesiya train eRomania. Because when I was there, I was lucky to stay with my uncle in Zambia, okuthiwa nguMagadlela. So wayilabanye abafowabo ababetraine from outside the country like Romania labo Russia. So wangitshela ibhuku kuthiwa ngulona Duni. Ngase ndibale more than maybe 1,000 times ibhuku lelana. Yilo lancedisa actually ukuba ukufunda nje a bit of English. You see, kwakunzima nje ukuthi ungafunda from where. But ibhuku lelana ngase lalilokhe yilo lali-property. It was my best property that I had kept. I had read it for more than 1,000 times. Imagine I got that book maybe at JZ1 and I kept it up to for 4 years reading that book. Every day, every time and then I would read that book called Lona Duni. I wish if someone could have it, sure.
So lalingelani?
Ibhukulelana lalikhuluma nje ngabantu sort of abantu ababehlala kwenye i-island, so but babebehave nje ama-Taliban, so ulona Duni lona wayengumntwana wami and waye in love lo mfana wayengekho ku society yona leyana. So indlela umfana lalingathi nje ngeleka Romeo and Juliet.
So it was a novel.
A novel, like, yeah.
So you
that's the property that I brought home.
Then you have to start afresh now. You know, you are back from 4 years is gone. You have nothing. You are starting afresh. Where do you start?
It was very difficult. As for me, I don't have a father, and my mother was just a kitchen woman. She was a kitchen girl. You know, she was not able to pay fees for me. And according to what we have been promised in Zambia, they were told that we were going to be to go to schools that were not going to pay even fees and so forth. Even that JZ Machota people started paying fees, you see. And then I went to Tombotema Secondary School. That is when I started my Form 1. And I went up to Form 2 without paying fees, because there were some promises that the government was going to pay for us. And then when we were at Form 2, our parents had to pay large bills of money, of school fees there, because no one had come forward for us. So my learning was not very easy. Each and every family member who had a chance to pay for me did that. And even going up to Form 4 was a struggle. It was a struggle. It was not easy, my brother. Even today, you know, you sometimes when you look back, there is quite a lot of pain in us, in me actually. But I know what it is with all the Kichanas. Because when I meet some of my brothers on the street, those who did not go to school, some of them are very old today. Their life was not easy for them. Some are dead. Some are dead. Some are some of them were supposed to be, you know, buried maybe in those provincial heroes' acres. They were buried like, you know, I cannot tell you, in the rural areas, without any celebration there, without any recognition. So we are glad that maybe at this present moment we've been recognized as war veterans.
So there is a guy who has been in Zambia, you know, trainer Romania, is all these political, you know, ideologies in his head. You are now a schoolboy in Tombodema. How easy is it to, you know, listen to authority, you know, follow instructions?
It was a struggle to humble ourselves. We were now used to killing. You know, when you are in the struggle, you are taught how to kill. That is your gospel. There is no other gospel besides killing, and killing in a disciplined way. You know, ZIPRA was the most disciplined military, you know, whatever, in the whole world. Out of all the other groups that I've read, ZIPRA was well disciplined. I can say so because I belonged to ZIPRA. I don't know about other associations or other armies, but ZIPRA was well disciplined. But, you know, even though we're disciplined, when we came home, you know, we were killers. We were called killers. We were guerrillas. We were soldiers. But to humble ourselves now and listen to a teacher teaching, it was very difficult. It wasn't easy. But it depended. I think with me, my parents were very influential in molding my character back to what I was long time back. Because even though it was a scattered family like that, the aunties that I had and uncles that I had were Christian people, so they managed to work it on. But it's not easy. Those feelings are still there. We fight them off, you see, in many ways, but it's very difficult.
So you end up at Zintec, Uganda Zintec, yes. Meaning you then train as a teacher.
I trained as a teacher there.
Yeah. So after that, you go into teaching.
I went to teach in Gai.
Okay.
That is where I'm teaching now.
From that time up to now.
From 2004 up to now. Yeah. From the struggle, I lived a very painful life. I was not employed and so forth like that. You know, living from hand to mouth. Actually, getting those small, you know, to peace jobs. Yeah, my peace jobs land. Until 2001, when I had an opportunity to go to college. I was very old by then, you see. Because impilo yayisechukile impilo. Which uthi siqalise nje impilo vele sesikhulile thina abafana uthiwa ngokijana. Because it was a struggle to come back home and try to build up your life again after the struggle, you see.
When everyone is
and you know, the most unfortunate part is that during vetting, no one thought about us. No one ever thought about us. People looked at themselves and they forgot about us. So in life lana became more painful when you saw somebody wawula empini lilala lonke struggle lonke empini yena sekuthiwa yena sevithiwa anikwe imali and when you were still suffering there.
So you then decide to write a book, Kichana the Liberator. What is the book all about?
This book is my first novel. You know, the feeling that I had about the struggle which was in me, I didn't want to die with that feeling. I didn't know how to write a book. But when I sat down, I said to myself, how can I speak so that other people can hear what I want to say? You see? And I said to my wife, the best thing that I can do, I know I was good in writing compositions when I was at primary before going to the struggle, you see. But now, how can I fail to write something that people can read? Yes, that is when I started writing about this book. In this book, Ukijana the Liberator, I wanted people to understand how we contributed, how the young boys contributed towards the struggle of Zimbabwe. Because we immensely contributed to the struggle.
But someone would argue that Zambia.
If a person argues like that, then that person, if he was in the struggle himself, then he was asleep during the struggle. Because if his eyes were opened, anyone who crossed into Mozambique, anyone who crossed into Zambia or into Botswana was already at war. So when you talk about war, you are not talking about someone shooting a gun. If you consider only the people who were shooting guns, what about the nurses who were in the hospital treating those guerrillas who were shooting guns? Were they not at war? You see, those people were at war. What about those who were cooking in the kitchen, cooking for those guerrillas? Were they not at war there in Zambia? They were at war. You see, what about those who were sewing combats for soldiers? They were at war. But because of certain principles that you never understand, people start to formulate groups and say only those that were carrying guns were at war. Some of them maybe even never came at home from Zambia, never crossed to Zimbabwe to come and fight here. You see, they were with us in those camps until we came back home, guarding those camps. We're living with us there. You see, the difference is very small, such that it's only a person who went to the struggle. Some people, when they were in the struggle, they were very fortunate to live in very, spacious, places. Some went to other countries and they were treated like ambassadors there, you see. But we were in the bush fighting. And we were struggling. When the enemy came, the bullets never segregated that, this one is a boy from Zimbabwe, so let me shoot this old guerrilla and let me leave this young boy alone. Bullets they don't discriminate. They kill anyone. I remember there were boys called Otiso. Those were the youngest Kichanas, the smallest Kichanas. The Kichana is another group. There was a group of 5 to 8 years boys called Otiso. I remember seeing 3 of those boys shot in the JZ3. You see, they were shot in the JZ3. And you could not even see the head, whether this was a head of a young boy or whatever, because it was totally destroyed by the bullet. So do you think that those boys were at a school? And a school is something that has got headmasters and principals, and it is registered under the Ministry of Education. Is there anyone in Zimbabwe who can tell us where JZ1 was registered? The school in Zambia was registered. It wasn't registered. It was just a time that now the bombardment is not taking toll. Or Smith is relaxed. So let us go and learn under those trees. Then you go there, you learn 2 hours, you learn. From there, you take your wooden gun or guns, you go back to the forest. We spent about a year in 1979 sleeping under trenches without a school. School actually ended in 1978. 1979 there was no longer a school because the war was now intensive in the camps.
So looking back at all what you went through, do you have any regrets?
Yeah, at the present moment, sometimes I regret why I went to the struggle. I even tell my wife most of the time. I regret very much. That one, I don't want even, I don't know how to say it, but I think I can say, I even say it, because I'm now 60, I'll be 60 years next year. And up to now, I don't have anything around me. I don't have a car, I don't have a cow, I don't have a home, I don't have my house. You see, everything was a struggle from the time I began employed. Everything, the money that I had could not even buy a stand. You see, so going to the struggle, and now you're 60, but you don't have anything around you. Called a war veteran for what reason, my brother? How can I call myself? I'm even embarrassed to tell other people that I was in the struggle. I regret it very much because the people who are now my bosses are those who never went to the strike, who remained learning here in the country. They are now the ones who are saying, Ndlovu, come here, come into my office, get into my office. And they are the ones who are interviewing me even when I want a job. You see, they are my bosses. I call them bosses now. Those who never went to the strike. So what was the purpose of me going to the strike and then come back and suffer more than the time when I was at home before the strike? Because my suffering sure is worse than during the days when I was at home in Plumtree there, and I was a young boy, and I was under my parents by then. And then I just decided to put myself into trap by going there to the strike. I'm not happy about this thing. I'm not happy. I'm happy that Zimbabwe is free, but I'm not happy about the condition that I and other Kichanas are living in at the present moment.
So if someone wants your book, where do they find it?
If someone wants my book, we have the book in WhatsApp. Actually, we have opened even from Facebook. We have also tried to open up an account with the Amazon, but there are some churches there that are there, and they stopped us from maybe coming to open that account completely. We also tried with the what? Yeah, I think it's Amazon, Facebook, and the WhatsApp, and the hard copy that we are selling.
So asithi kulo muntu ofuna ukuncedisa maybe ukupublish ibhuku lelo ukulithenga, where do they ama contacts akho athini?
Ama contacts yeah, we have contacts in WhatsApp.
Yeah, ngithi phone number akho
0774 366 043. That is my number, 0774 366 043.
Ndlovu, let me thank you very much for sharing with us your story. Your story is that of success for me, because I've talked to some of the guys who went to war and ended nowhere and could not pick up the pieces. But when you picked up pieces, you got a profession, you are writing books. Probably the war is not, you guys, what you expected, but it is a lesson to young people, probably. Let's not take things for granted. But the fact that you came back and you actually started from scratch, and today you are somewhere. I think it is a story that is inspiring. And out there might be people who are good at publishing, who might say, "Hi, Ndlovu, singamncedisa ukupublish ibhuku kumbe sifuna ukuthenga ibhuku lakhe." Now that you've given us your number, we hope people will also be in contact with you and find ways of, helping. Ukuncedisa okwenzayo ngoba uniyazenzela. How do we help you market your book? Thank you very much, Babu Ndlovu, for sharing your experiences with us. And we hope a lot of people are going to learn something from your experience. My name is Zenzele Ndebele. This was The Breakfast Club. You can follow us online. We are on Facebook. We are on Twitter. We are on YouTube. We are on TikTok. We are on Instagram. CITEZW, site ZW. Till we meet again in other programs. Have a good day.